Welcome to a special I'm on vacation edition of a football show here on the 440 Sports Network, brought to you by Sinkers Beverages and Shotgun Willie's Barbecue. I am Braden Gall, and that is not Paul Kaharski or Nick Suss, but a man that everyone knows, Mike Herndon. I'm going to call you. It's a miracle to see you on the show, Mike. How are you, sir?
I'm out of the wilderness and back into a podcast here. So here we are.
Apparently, I was in the wilderness this morning.
You were as well.
If you're watching on YouTube, we do appreciate it. We are not live. We recorded this before. I took my family rafting in the mountains of West Virginia, so it's going to be a lot of fun. So you and I are going to have, but training camp is opening for Titans fans, and so we do need to discuss. I wanted to get first of all, I wanted to have a conversation with you for a while and get your thoughts on where this team is at as we go into camp. And I thought this is a perfect time for you and I to project the 53-man starting roster. We'll put it in like a time capsule before camp, and we'll put all of our predictions here, and then we'll come back after camp on roster cutdown day and see how close we were. So
and we get our grades. Yeah,
exactly. Then we grade each other on how well we did. So otherwise, Sinkers Beverages 40th anniversary birthday party coming up, Basement East on August 9th. That's just a couple of weeks away. Tickets are only $10. All of the money goes to charity. And there's going to be a lot of cool stuff there. Giveaways, raffles, music, booze, food, prizes, all kinds of fun stuff. BasementEast.com is the website. Make sure you go buy your tickets there. Again, all the money goes to charity. And we're just celebrating a great company serving the community for 40 years. We're going to get together, have fun, tell some stories, do some off-the-record stuff, which we did at the draft party as well. So a lot of 440 folks are going to be there. It's going to be a lot of fun. So come on out. Again, all the money goes to charity. So $10. Easy Saturday afternoon to come hang out and celebrate Sinkers Beverages. Shotgun Willie's Barbecue, of course, from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Wednesday through Sundays, and the best brisket in the city. And as a person who lives in Texas and went to school in Texas, myself personally, I spent like 6 of my 12 school years in the state of Texas, and I learned how to eat barbecue from a barbecue joint in Austin called County Line, which is where I learned how to eat ribs and how to eat cow. And no one in Nashville really knows how to cook cow. And so my guy, Shotgun Willie from Texas, 30 years of smoking meat, Texas style, best cow in Nashville, brisket. No free shouts to barbecue joints in Austin during this ad read for the barbecue joint in Nashville.
100%. Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. If it is a Texas knows how to do barbecue, and if that's Texas barbecue, that is good stuff.
Yeah, there you go. So Shotgun Willie's Barbecue, 11 a.m., 3 p.m., Wednesday through Sunday, or until that meat is gone. Because all good barbecue joints aren't open at night. Let's just be honest about it.
100%. It's a lunch. It's a lunch food.
It's a lunch food. You start cooking at 3 a.m. so that you can all eat lunch. That's how it works. That's how it works. So, Mike, we're going to go through the first of all, again, not live today. So, if you want to jump into the comments, please do so. But we will not be seeing it as I am wandering around the Appalachian Mountains somewhere right now, currently with my daughters and wife. So, we do appreciate you guys hanging out. But please share the show. Write a review on podcast app of choice. Suss and I will be back on Friday. We're going to be a day late because I get back in town, and so Nick and I we'll do a show on Friday this week. So stay tuned for that. PK off this week, and Mike, we're calling in the big guns here. We're calling in the Mo Rivera of the football show repertoire. So I think we're going to disagree on some stuff, which I think is going to be. I think the Titans. So before we do this, I think the Titans actually have some relatively interesting decisions. And so the two questions I have for you before we get started are sort of, is this roster, how different is this roster at this stage going into camp as it was last year? Do you see better depth? Do you see better options for the Titans? Do you see more decisions that they have to make based on what they want to accomplish? What are some of the differences going into this training camp as you start to look at the roster versus maybe where we were last year?
I think as overall across the board, it is a better roster than what they had last year at this time. I think there's certain positions that have not really gotten a whole lot better. And we can kind of talk about those as we go through them. But there are other positions where they're going to have to cut real NFL players, which they did not really have to do last year or the year before, frankly. So I think they've improved the roster. I definitely think it's heading in a positive direction. And there's some position groups, particularly on offense, I think that I feel like are actually turning into real strengths for this team. So, I think it's better and moving in a positive direction.
All right. Well, I totally agree with you. And I think while I don't necessarily think that is the case at every position, inside linebacker, looking at you, I think they have better options at offensive line. I think they have better options at receiver. I think they have better options at tight end. I think they have better options at pass rusher than maybe we think. Not necessarily better than last year, but maybe better than we think. And so I think we'll see what happens. I think the defensive line is very interesting. I think the safety position is interesting. So there's a lot of stuff we're going to get to today. And so let's get started with the most difficult decisions that the Titans are going to have. Does Cam Ward make the team?
It's a close one. I'm going to go yes. But I do think quarterback's interesting. So for the purposes of our 53-man roster discussion here, are we considering trades? Everything's on the board. That if we want to predict trades, if we want to predict,
like injuries to Lloyd Cushenberry.
Yeah. Can I just go ahead and say,
I think you can say what you. I think it's we can explore the studio space, Mike. You can say what you want to say. I'm going to write it down though. But
okay, because I'm torn on a couple of trade potentials. I don't think Treylon Burks is worth anything, and I don't think they'll be able to get anything for him. But we can talk about him when we get to wide receivers. But I guess starting at quarterback, Levis thing, I'm very interested to see what happens with Levis, whether they want to try to polish him up in preseason to sell him, or if they actually want him to be the backup. I do think he's a better backup than either Brandon Allen or Tim Boyle, and for that reason, I do think it would be worth having him around. But I also do wonder, for I don't know, the sake of that room, whether I don't know if Levis is going to be a guy that makes that awkward at some point, or if he's going to be a guy that's going to be able to get okay with the fact that this is Cam Ward's team, because there's no doubt it is.
I don't. So I think that's the right question to ask. I don't think he is the malcontent type. I just don't. I think Will Levis is wired in a way that when faced with a situation, he is going to do everything in his power to do that situation the best. Now, that doesn't mean you process defenses and can throw the football accurately.
Right.
But I think he's always been wired in a way that he is going to do the best job he can at the job he is told to do. And I think that's a good way to be in life, frankly.
Yeah.
I in a perfect world, a team that loses their starting quarterback 3 weeks before the start of the season is going to be desperate, and you can maximize his value at that point. I think there's a chance that happens. I don't know what the percentage is, 10%. I don't know.
Yeah.
But if that happens, then I think you absolutely are doing everything you can to trade him, because I think Brandon Allen, like if Cam Ward doesn't play, then things are not going according to plan no matter what. So It doesn't really matter who's the backup at that point.
Sure.
I do think Levis is better than Allen. I think Allen is fine if all you need is a couple of plays a year and Ward is your guy. The percentage chance it happens, that's different. That's a different thing. I think that would be the plan for the Titans. But I think Levis is your backup quarterback, and I only have two quarterbacks on the active roster, 53. When they make the cuts, I've got Cam Ward and Will Levis.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going with three. I'm going with Ward, Levis, and Allen. And I do think Levis does stay on the team. I don't think, because I think ultimately they're not going to just flip him for a seventh just to get a seventh. I don't think that would be dumb.
I'm thinking four or better. You take the deal.
I agree. I think, I'd be tempted maybe if someone threw a 5 out there. I'd think about it, maybe have a meeting about it. But a 4 or better, I'm saying yes. And good luck. Good luck wherever you go.
All right, you're +1 for me there. You're +1 on me.
Yes.
Okay. All right, running back. Let's stay in the backfield.
I've got Pollard, Spears, Mullings, and I think the only question is whether they keep a fourth, and I don't see any reason to, because Mullings will be able to play on special teams. He fills that role for you, as well as being your thumper that they clearly wanted. I think he's going to make the team. They invested in him, not a huge amount, but more than they invested in Chestnut or Tyrion Davis-Price. So I think Mullings is your third, and I don't think there's really a need for a fourth.
Yeah, and I know that this is not new information, but I've had a chance to talk with him a couple of times during OTAs, and it's all what we expected. This is a very smart person, and I think one of the most undervalued parts of his game, and maybe people have talked about it and I just haven't seen it, but the fact that he's a converted linebacker means he is going to be very good at special teams. Because if you have any linebacking in your background, you should be able to cover punts and kicks pretty well, and he's really physical, he's really strong. I talked to some of the coaches that coached him when they were at Michigan, and like everybody raves about this kid. And the lack of experience is the only reason why he wasn't getting more reps at running back. Frankly, there was also a crowded backfield 2 years ago at Michigan, so they didn't need him to be that guy. And then last year he stepped into a more prominent role. So I think it's 3. So
I think it's notable how he got that role too, because it's not like, I mean, Donovan Edwards was the guy, right? I mean, he was, cover of the College Football 25 kind of guy. So and I think that was the expectation until Mullings came and kind of ripped that away from him.
Also Edwards gets hurt a lot and is not a true like workhorse back. Where did he transferred somewhere? He's transferred to Kansas State. I think he's transferred somewhere. He's in the Big 12 now.
Yeah.
And he's going to be a great college back because you can get him in space. Like the Jahmyr Gibbs type of player where you can get him in space. You maybe get 12 to 15 touches a game. But now we're breaking down like Big 12 running back. I have Pollard, Spears, and Mullings. Chestnut is probably 4th.
Yeah.
So if an injury happens to either Spears or Pollard, which is possible, you got to think Chestnut's probably the first one up. No?
Yeah, because he can do the special teams thing. He's not terrible in that front. I don't think he'll be as good as Mullings in that capacity, but he can do a little bit of everything for you. I think he's a useful guy to have around. I'm sure they'd love to have him on the practice squad ultimately as kind of a break glass in case of emergency option there. But
at
53.
At wide receiver, I suppose we could do this in like 2 groups of 3, but I'm curious how you see the positional org chart, the flow chart here breaking down for the Titans, because it does feel like they've got like other than maybe Restrepo as a slot, should he even make the team?
Yeah.
And maybe because even Iomander can play in the slot in the dirty areas as well. They really do have like 4 or 5 guys that can do. Tyler Lockett plays both. Calvin Ridley can play both.
Yeah.
Van Jefferson can do both. Like do that. I don't even know how to truly organize what the actual depth chart looks like for this position.
It is kind of a difficult task at this point because, I guess they're going to play Ridley at the X most likely. And he can do that because, his release package is so strong. He's able to get off press. And that's not a problem.
I think they want Iomander at the Y, I think.
Yeah, and I could see him being in a Y or an X. I could see Iomander playing X as well. There's a lot of different options, which makes it a really interesting group. And frankly, I always think wide receiver, for whatever reason, ends up being the most talked about. And I don't know if it's just the Titans or if this is with every team, but wide receiver ends up being the most talked about group every training camp. And I guess, their one-on-one reps are always more,
fantasy sports
easier to watch, and track and the highlights are cooler and all that stuff. But wide receiver always ends up being a fascination. But I do think it's particularly interesting for the Titans this year because I'm not sure who's locks on this team outside of Ridley, in the 2 draft picks. I think the 2 draft picks are making it.
I think 5 of them are locked in place. But
you
go ahead.
Think Lockett's a lock? I think he is.
You're a dad.
But I know. I just turned 40, so I've got to pull them all.
Congratulations!
All out now. Yeah,
congratulations.
But I think Lockett most likely. He's like one of these guys. I'd say 99% he makes the roster. But like, would it be that shocking if they decided not to?
I would say I think there's a better chance he retires than he's cut.
Oh, I agree. Yeah. I can't imagine.
Do I think a severe injury or a change of heart could do something to Tyler Lockett's future with the Titans? Maybe.
Yeah.
And I think he's closer to that because he's a very cerebral dude. Like he thinks about I can't wait to talk to him because it's like he's got this philosophical side that's very interesting to me, which means he's thinking about things outside of football. And so one of those guys that sort of starts to fit into a box of like aging, accomplished a lot, won a lot, paid a lot, thinks about other things. And does he need this? Like, we'll see. But I think that's way more likely than getting cut. I think he's the second best receiver on the team right now. So I don't think he's cut.
I agree. I was just thinking, if we get into camp and DK and Iomander are just blowing it out of the water, and you get a situation where it's
this is why people get obsessed with the receiver position on Twitter because people like you are like, that Tyler Lockett might get cut because of Alec Iomander's dominance in training camp.
Just clip that and run it. We'll get all the views there. No, it's so I think it's Lockett. I think it's obviously Ridley. I think Jefferson's making the team. I'd be surprised if he didn't. I think people are kind of underrating Jefferson in a way.
Yes, I agree.
He's not exciting, by any means, but I think he's a professional NFL receiver. By all accounts, it sounds like he was in great shape all summer and looked good on the field, which, obviously playing in shorts and helmets is different than when the pad come on and everything becomes real. But he's had good success at the NFL level, which is more than really any of the rest of these guys on the list can say at this point. But then you get into DK, Iomanner, obviously, and then I think Oliver's making this team.
I'm with you, man.
I think his special teams ability gives him a leg up because they need a body out of this group that can be a big time special teams contributor. He's that more than any of these other guys are. And so I think they also like him. I think he showed what he could do last year, and every time he's been given opportunities, he's taken advantage of them. He's just one of those guys that you've never seen him take a step backwards yet, right? So he's never gotten up to a next position and failed back down. So I think he's a guy that I'm willing to bet on. And then I think it comes down to whether do you keep 7? I think Restrepo, is interesting enough. I'd rather have him here than put him back into the free agency waters and have him catch on somewhere else, because I think he can be an NFL slot receiver. I really think he can. But I don't think Burks is making it.
I think, but let's start with Burks.
Okay.
Whether he is placed on PUP to start camp and how long he's on it is a factor in all of this. So that's a free extra receiver potentially.
Yeah.
I think if he's fully healthy and at the end of camp, they do have a decision to make on him. And is it possible that they just cut him? I think it's possible.
I think it's likely.
If they could keep him in some sort of injury extra roster slot, then I think they do that. I'm not sure he is an active player one way or the other. If that makes sense, which means I agree. I have Ridley. I think there's 5 locked into place. I think it's Ridley, Lockett, Jefferson, Iomanner, DK, and those 5. I think Jefferson, you use the right word. Professional is the way to look at him, and he's extremely cheap, and he's going to do the things you need him to do. Like, he's a guy that can come in, and if we're looking at a receiving core that doesn't have like truly defined positions on every play, and Callahan's okay with that and kind of likes the fact that he can play with these pieces and move them around, Jefferson can kind of fill in where needed. So if Iomanner gets hurt, Jefferson has skills that back him up. If Ridley gets hurt, Jefferson can run those dig routes across the middle if you need him to into traffic. Like, there's things that he does that can kind of fit into everywhere. He's a professional. He's predictable, which is both good and bad, but like, I get it. And he's super, super cheap. I think he's on the team, and you're not going to get rid of DK or Iomanner as well. I think you're right about Oliver, and I think they're keeping 7. I just, for some reason, I think they're keeping 7 because they have 6 guys competing for 1 spot otherwise. Because I don't think Sheffield has a chance. I don't think Prochet has a chance. I'm not sure about Burks, but Colton Dowell is another guy that is big and physical and has a lot of athletic ability. Like, they have too many guys. I am torn on who that last one is, the 7th one. I think Oliver has the lead in all of those other names. So I have Oliver as my 6th. The question is, what do they do with Burks? And is Restrepo carved out enough of a role? And PK doesn't believe that Restrepo can return punts. I think he can.
Yeah.
I don't think you need 4.4 straight line speed to be a really dependable, productive punt returner. I think you need good hands. And honestly, I think the thickness, the ability to bounce off some tackles and maybe pick up 8 yards when it's supposed to be 3, or pick up 12 when it's supposed to be 4. That's what makes a good punt returner, is just that extra first down you give your offense, not the one time a year you pick up a 75-yard punt return. So I do not like that. I think Restrepo could make the team because the fan base is overly obsessed with this player, more so than he deserves or that they should. It doesn't mean that he doesn't have some intrigue and some skill, though.
I agree. I think he's one of these guys that he just gets open. He catches the football. He's smart. He's tough. He checks so many boxes for what you want. He's just not a 4.4 guy. And I think that's okay though. And like you said, on a punt return, how many times have we seen, that really your job is to make the first guy miss, right? Like you catch the ball, make the first guy miss. You've done your job for that play. Anything else is on blocking and or just a cherry on top. I think he's going to be able to do that. And I think the fact that he is, 5'10" and 215 pounds or whatever he goes, I think it helps because that first guy's coming in with momentum. He shifts his weight just a little bit and is able to shrug off that first tackle and get going north and south. That's all you need. And I think he can do those things.
And if you're going to get blasted as a punt returner, you need to be thicker than Jaquan Jackson.
Exactly.
Because that dude has no ability to fall to the ground.
I was terrified for his life every time he caught a punt and did not fair catch.
Falling in football is such an important skill set. Emmitt Smith, one of the greatest fallers of all time. LaDainian Tomlinson, one of the greatest fallers of all time. You got to know how to fall. And like Robert Griffin III, worst faller I've ever seen. Just terrible at falling.
It is.
And Jaquan Jackson, I'm intrigued by his skills every time he's out there, and a guy we should be mentioning, honestly, in this conversation. Right. I have not mentioned him either, but he's on the team too.
Yeah.
Just like the worst faller I've ever seen in a Titans uniform.
I mean, every tackle looked like a train wreck. I mean, it was unbelievable. It looked like the old NFL blitz plays, It's just like body slam to the ground.
So you have 3 quarterbacks, 7 receivers.
Yes.
You're up to 13. I have 2 quarterbacks. I'm going to go with 7 receivers. I'll put Restrepo in there on my list. Because I think he does things differently than I think he's a better version than Jackson at what Jackson does.
Yeah.
I think he gives you something that I don't, Prochet's had some nice plays in camp. I don't think that translates. I don't know about Sheffield. And Burks is the wild card. If Burks is super healthy and in shape, which he did not necessarily look at in OTAs, then maybe he wins his way onto the team. That's possible. But I'm going to go with Restrepo. Burks is cut, or the trade thing is not happening, guys. All right, tight end is fascinating here. Nick Suss. I'm going to go with Nick Suss's projection here, not for mine, but just to start the conversation, which is Gunnar Helm, Chikakonkwo. I think we can both start there. He has Thomas Odukoya and no Josh Wiley. What is your starting tight end roster look like?
I also have no Josh Wiley. I've got Okonkwo, Helm, and then David Martin Robinson is my third, which I will say David Martin Robinson, especially with Okonkwo and Helm, it's a little too samey skill set wise for me for all 3 of those spots, just because they all are more move guys. Helm can play in line and certainly will play in line for this team, but none of them are exactly maulers as blockers. So I think, that's where Odukoya comes in. And I do think this is one of the spots where I wrestled back and forth. Do I want to keep a third quarterback, or do I want to keep Thomas Odukoya, or do I want to keep a 10th offensive lineman to give us some insulation if Lloyd Cushenberry is not fully ready to start the season, or do I want to keep Thomas Odukoya? So those were the kind of the decisions I was going back and forth on, but I ultimately landed on no Odukoya, even though I was at one point the president of the Thomas Odukoya fan club. So it's an interesting spot. What do you have?
Who's the best blocker of the 5?
Odukoya.
I have Gunnar Helm, Chikakonkwo, Thomas Odukoya. Those are the 3 I've got.
Yeah.
The question I think they do keep a 4th. Now DMR, so the reports around practice, the rumors around practice were that Seattle saw him in day 1 and was trying to acquire him, and they were like, no, we're not doing that. Yeah. So he is very high on a lot of people's lists. So I think they might have a decision on to protect him or not. Might be important there. I don't know. So I think there's a chance they keep a 4th tight end, and I don't know if that's Wiley or Odukoya, or DMR. Frankly, you could make the case for any of those 2 or just one of them. Obviously Helm and Chig, but I just think to me, if you're just going 3, I think Helm, Chig, and Odukoya gets you the broadest set of skills.
I agree.
And that gives you the most versatility to run 12 personnel if you want to. 13 even if you want to. Because I think Helm will be a very productive slot split out Travis Kelce-ish type of tight end. He's great down the seam. That's where Cam Ward is already comfortable. He puts pressure in open space on safeties and linebackers. And so Chig does not, but he's really fun around the line of scrimmage with stuff you can do creatively. So they need someone that can line up and lead block for Khalil Mullings, inside the 5.
Yeah, that's true. I do think, but could you play an extra tackle in those situations
Sure.
rather than Odakoye?
Sure. Do they have an extra tackle?
Well, that's we should get to that next because that is a great question. But I think, yeah, I do think Helm and Okonkwo will likely be the two guys that you see on like middle of the field 12 personnel, anyways. So I think it really is a question of whether you just need like that thumper that you can put in there for goal line situation, short yardage, whatever it may be. And I value DMR's skill level, I think, over whatever that would be from Odakoye.
Yep. No, I think that's fair. But we both have. I'm gonna. So there's one of these things that happens around this time of year with the Titans, where we get so fascinated with the guys who are trying to make the roster. It happens on Hard Knocks. Maybe it's Hard Knocks programming our brains.
Yeah.
But we get very obsessed with like the thing that's not on the team that we think could make the team, and then we forget that like there's a reason Josh Wiley has like played in the NFL for 3 straight years. Yeah. And I just sometimes I'm just kind of like, I think we undervalue the person who already won his way onto the team multiple times, was drafted, was paid as such, got reps, and caught passes, frankly. Now, he wasn't super productive, but like had his flashes. I think there's a chance it's Helm, Chig, Wiley +1. And my vote would be Odakoye in that case. But I like DMR a lot. I think they have a really good set of 5. This is one of the few good problems to have. The issue is they may not have a number 1. That's the problem.
True.
All right, so we're back to even now because I'm going to go with 4. I'm going to take Helm, Chig, Wiley, Odakoye. I'm going to go 4.
I'm going to throw one parting tight end hot take at you.
Okay.
I think part of the reason I think DMR makes it, I think they move on from Chig at the end of the season, and DMR would be a natural fit for his role on this team. If you wanted a cheap replacement that's already on the roster that you can throw into that, with the understanding that he's not your number 1 and he's not going to be your number 1. I think maybe you save some money by pivoting to DMR.
I think that's a really good case to honestly Helm, Chig, DMR, and Odakoye could be a solid 4, and then you're moving on. At the end of the season, you have no Chig, no Wiley. That's very much a possibility. I agree with you on moving on from Chig. I don't think you're giving him a big contract. Not that he's earned it, but we'll see what. Maybe he gives you the hometown discount.
Fine player, good guy, but nothing special.
All right, I'm at 16. You're at 16. Offensive line. Let's go. Let's start with tackles.
All right. I've got it. I've got to organize a little bit different. So the starting 5 is obvious, right? So Dan Moore, Skoronski, Cushenberry, Zeitler, Latham. Locked in. We know those are going to be the 5 that go out there, assuming Cushenberry's healthy for week 1, right? That we know that. So I think you start below that. If we want to look at the tackle specifically, I have no idea who the next best tackle is on this team right now. And now, honestly, that's a spot that if I was going to shop around in free agency for whatever's left out there, I wouldn't mind them bringing in a veteran tackle. They did spend a decent amount of UDFA money on Brandon Dixon. I don't know. He doesn't tickle my fancy specifically for my personal preference.
3 names though, and the 3 name UDFAs: Gabe Judy Lally, Martin Robinson. True. All the 3 name folks make the team.
All right, so maybe I need to buy BCD stock.
But I think there's some like movement questions I have about him.
Yes, the length, the size, all looks good. He was a starter in the SEC like that, but I don't know if he can move, and his testing numbers were terrible. So that makes me concerned. raw power and the movement, which are just 2 not important things at all when you play offensive line. Right, yeah. I mean, there is that. There's that, and I will say it does seem, based on the players they've selected, the players they've brought in over the last 2 years, it seems to me that one of the biggest shifts on this roster, going from Vrabel and Robinson, and / Carthon, or however you want to split that, but going from Vrabel to Callahan, and specifically with Bill Callahan's offensive line, they've gotten a lot bigger bigger on the offensive line since making that transition. All these guys are on the larger side for their position group. I mean, Zeitler's 335 pounds. We know Latham's a monster. Dan Moore's, 315, 320, somewhere in there. These guys are bigger bodies.
Isn't Cushenberry like 6'3", 6'4"?
He's 6'4", and he's 310. Yeah, he's like 310 too. So he's a bigger center, especially compared to Brewer.
Right.
Yeah, but well, Brewer, who it's like
Tougher than a $2 steak. We have
had a good year in Miami.
we have the same 5 as the starting 5, so
Yeah.
we're both up to 21. Let's start with, how about this? Jackson Slater,
on the team.
Hance, and Corey Levin. Those are the 3 that I have clearly making the team. Safe to say that those 3 are on there?
I agree. And I think Hance is ultimately your third tackle, probably.
Okay, so he's your swing tackle. So we're up to 8. So the question becomes 9 or 10, and then who is number 9? I think there has to be another pure tackle on there somewhere. No?
Yeah. So there's a few interesting options. I don't totally hate some of these as your 9th and 10th offensive linemen. I think they go 10 because I think you go heavy because of the Cushenberry injury issue. And I think maybe you keep another center on the roster, even if Cushenberry is cleared for week 1, just in case there's an issue there or re-injury or whatever. But I kind of liked Sam Mustipher, guy that's been in the league, has played, has started, in somewhat recent seasons. Isn't a good starter. He's not a good starter, but that's not what you're going to get as your 9th or 10th offensive lineman. He's a professional football lineman that I think is better than what you can say for a lot of these guys. Can play guard or center, give you some flexibility there.
Is he on your start? Is he on your 53?
He is. He is. And then my other one here is I held my nose and went with Jalen Duncan. I think it was I think it was down to Jalen Duncan or John Ojukwu or Brandon Crenshaw Dixon.
I have Mustipher and Ojukwu going to 10.
Okay. So we basically had the same kind of thought process there. I think Duncan, upside wise, has the biggest upside of any of those tackles. Now, I don't know if he can reach it. I think they have generally liked him from what I understand, as far as how he's working, everything like that. Now, the results have not been good when he's been on the field. So I don't know. I think that spot is an open competition. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
I think whoever you think is the tackle, like I'm going to Ojukwu. I just think that there's I just like the player who kind of always overachieves versus the player who seems to be underachieving all the time.
Yeah.
A lot of skill in both of them. One has more pure ability. One has maybe a little bit more sort of the X factor, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. I actually think Mustipher's the last one. I think whoever you pick winning that tackle slot is the 9th one. Yeah. I have Mustipher at 10. So if you're keeping a 10th one, I do think Mustipher's ahead of an undrafted free agent rookie or some of these other guys that they've gotten that have some experience. The
Brendan
James, yeah. So we're both basically 5'10". We're both at 26. I assume we're gonna go Cox, Hecker, and Joey Sly.
I think those are the only options. They don't even have another punter or kicker, and
so we'll just add those 3. So now we're up to 29. So now we got the defense. Sinkers Beverages, Shotgun Willie's Barbecue. All right, and whatever Mike Herndon's brand new weird Twitter account handle is, you can follow him there.
Mike Herndon Mike Herndon SK1. See, I can't even get it right.
Yeah, see, there you go. Yeah. So I want to do defensive line.
Yes.
And then we'll do outside linebacker / edge, and then we'll do inside linebacker. Because I'm not going to do one's a nose tackle, one's a defensive tackle, one's a defensive end. I'm just going to do defensive line. So defensive line, they have some intriguing pieces here. They've always kind of kept one more guy at this spot under Vrabel and even last year than we expect, kind of, or at least is obvious. And I think they're going to do it again this year. So defensive line, let's start there.
All right. I've got obviously Jeffrey Simmons, Devondre Sweat, Sebastian Joseph Day. I think those are the 3 no-brainers. Those are your 3 guys that are going to play a lot on Sundays. And then I went Keandre Coburn, who was obviously here last year. I think he provides a solid backup to what you are getting out of Devondre Sweat. Nose tackle, big body, run defense. A good player, or not a good player, good backup. And then the last one I picked was James Lynch. He was here last year as well. I thought he did some good things, has a little bit of pass rush juice. There are a lot of, I won't say a lot. There are 2 UDFAs that I'm very interested in this group, though, with Devontae O'Malley and Cam Horsley. I think both of those guys are legitimately interesting. Both, especially O'Malley from a testing standpoint, blew it out of the water. Extremely athletic guy. Was very productive, albeit at a lower level of college program. And then Horsley played big time football at BC for a long time and was very productive.
I like him. I like him a lot, but I think he's a
Yeah.
really high end priority scout teamer. But I like him a lot.
Yeah. That's kind of where I landed on those. I think those two could push Lynch for that last spot, and maybe even Coburn, because I think Coburn is maybe more competing with Isaiah Rakes, who is more of the nose tackle type. But I guess it depends whether we think they want to keep two true nose tackles versus, one nose tackle in Sweat, and then mix the others with kind of interchangeable defensive tackle types.
Easy to pick the top three: Simmons, Sweat, Sebastian Joseph Day. And you were talking about how much bigger this team is on the offensive line. They are just exactly the same, just that much bigger on the defensive line as well.
Yeah.
Their edges are going to be much bigger this year. That's I can't tell if that's like, I don't want to say sour grapes isn't the right word, but like a backup plan. Like, oh, we're not going to get anybody that can sack the quarterback, so let's get really big. I feel like that might be what they're doing here.
Yeah.
I've got Coburn as well. I think there's just a consistency there and some dependability, not a ton of upside. I think it's Carlos Watkins.
Okay.
Over Lynch. I mean, he's older. He's 31 years old, but the pedigree is there. There's sometimes these guys that just have this like, oh, I was great in high school. I was really good in college, and I've kind of been pretty good everywhere I've played in the NFL.
Yeah.
I'm not, but I don't have the same juice anymore.
Yeah.
But you bring him in on a third down on a goal line or something else, or a backup role, or if you need him in a start because Sweat is out for something.
Yeah.
I just think he's a professional veteran, kind of like the Van Jefferson of the defensive line.
Okay.
And so I'll go. I've got 5 just like you, but I think it's Watkins over Lynch. But I like Lynch as well. I think they like him a lot also. All right, let's do whatever you want to call this: outside linebacker, defensive end, pass rusher, edge player, just not an interior defensive lineman. So we'll call it edge here. I think we're going to agree on this. So where are you going?
All right. Draymond Jones, Arden Key, Femi Oladipo, clear locks. I think Lorenzo Carter probably makes it more so because, and they didn't give him a ton of money in free agency. They did sign him, but there's not a whole lot of competition here, to be honest. And then I think Jalen Harrell, I debated about whether even to keep for. Jalen Harrell showed very little last year in what was relatively significant playing time that he got just out of necessity.
It did not match up with sort of the preseason camp that he had.
No, he had a lot of flash in preseason and then fizzled out during when the lights came on. I still think he sticks because I think he's a guy that can play special teams. He's a guy that, I think he's going to be a professional. I think he's going to do the right things, be in the right places, try it, the effort's not going to be a problem, all that stuff. And I think he's good enough to beat out, Ali Gay, Desmond Evans, Titus Leo, who I'm not even sure if that's a real person or not. No offense to Titus. He's got a great name, but I've never heard it before. I looked up the roster today.
I don't think the only name I wrote down that I thought had a chance to challenge was Ali Gay.
Yeah.
I don't even know if there's another name that's challenging this group. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if they made a move like when they went and got why am I drawing a blank on Jones? Ernest Jones.
Yes.
They took advantage of an opportunity, saw an opening, and just took it. I think that could be the case this year. They find an opportunity for an edge. They're not going to get a number 1 or maybe even a number 2, but could they get somebody that challenges like Lorenzo Carter or Arden Key for time as like a rotational piece? They could find somebody like that in the middle of training camp, or maybe somebody else gets cut somewhere else that from a contract standpoint or gets pinched that way. Otherwise, I got the Draymond Jones, Arden Key, Jalen Harrell, Femi Oladipo, Lorenzo Carter. I think Lorenzo Carter is too consistently average to not make the team because they're still waiting for Femi and Harrell to kind of become the thing they need. I think Arden Key is consistently average, and he's going to make the team because consistently average still might be better than what the other options are. So I got the same 5.
100%. And I will say, we talked about they want bigger bodies, they want to be able to crush the pocket, that kind of thing. There is still a person out there who is not on a team right now who can do all of those things and do it better than anyone on the roster currently. That's Zadarius Smith. If they wanted to splash a little free agent money on somebody, Man, I would love that pickup. Brings a veteran to the room. It kind of slots everybody down a peg where they really probably should be. Draymond Jones becomes your number 2. Key becomes your 3. Oladejo becomes your 4. That becomes a pretty interesting group to me. And, leadership, toughness, all that stuff checks a ton of boxes, fits exactly the mold of player that they seem to be targeting at this position. Would love that pickup. I don't know if that's something they have any interest in or how much, interest he would have in coming to play for a team that is probably not competing, at a high level this year. But if they wanted to throw some dollars around, I think that would be a very good investment still.
And if all he gives you is, I don't know, like 20% of the snaps in a game for 80% of the games, that's all you're paying him for. Like you're not paying him for 60 snaps a game on defense and 20 and in 16 sacks. Like that's not what you're paying him for.
And he still was good last year. He still got it. Like he is not one of these washed guys that's all name, no game now.
Yeah.
So I'm very interested in that if they were to make.
All right, I'm on board with that. All right, same. We have 5 and 5 D-line and edge. Only one difference player there. You got Lynch. I have Watkins. Let's go to the inside linebacking core where we might have some differences.
All right, I have Cody Barton, Cedric Gray, James Williams, which I think are pretty much logs. I mean, I think those guys are all going to be on the team.
Agreed.
4th and 5th spots. This is the worst depth on the roster to me. You will call me a homer most likely. I have David Benda taking the 4th spot, and that's almost more just
Gabenda?
Other options. It's Benda. It's Benda. It's a silent G.
Is he a Texas guy?
He is. He is.
That's why
guy.
you know. That's why.
Yeah. So he is. But it is because I followed his career pretty closely. With Texas. And he was a very good player for them by the time they finished. Can play special teams, is a high effort, high motor, good locker room guy, all that stuff. I think he's a guy that, when your options are Otis Reese, Curtis Jacobs, and Amari Burney, give me Benda.
Anthony Orji?
Anthony Orji. I had him on my list, and somehow I must have got deleted. But Orji is somewhat interesting. I like Benda better. I think Benda's a quality linebacker, and he's a little bit different from, I think Gray and Williams tend to be more, not finesse players necessarily, but they're not thumpers in the middle of the defense. Benda can be a thumper for you in the middle of that defense. And if something were to happen to Cody Barton and you needed somebody with a little bit more lead in his pencil, in the middle of that defense, I think Benda gives you that.
Orji and Jacobs both larger than Benda, just for the record.
I know, but Benda
Orji is
top.
No, he does. He does. And I don't think you're a homer for that. I think he's a very solid player. I have Barton, Gray, Williams as well. I have Anthony Orji and Curtis Jacobs because of just the 1 year of experience in the NFL making the team. Orji his lower body is noticeably bigger than everybody else's at that position. I don't know if that means he can't run in space or if that, if there's a trade-off there, but he's only listed at like 235, but he is thick. 2 C's.
Put together 235.
And Jacobs is over 240. Like Jacobs is pretty big too. So one of those guys, I don't know if it's Bernie, if it's Benda to your point. Evans is on there, Jacobs, Reese. I don't have Reese making the team. I think he had his opportunity and being banged up has kind of cost him, but he had his chance last year to get reps and didn't really do much with it. I do think they like Bernie more than we all think. If I had to guess, I think you're right. There is one true spot locked up. There are 2 probably locked up only because they invested in them. I think Williams is actually the guy that they like the most.
Yeah.
I think his athletics ability is off the charts and he's super rangy. Honestly, your guess is as good as mine on this one. I think they keep 5. I think there's a chance they only keep 4, but we'll see. So you've got 4 here. Now we're back to even, I think, because you had the 3rd quarterback. Both have 7 receivers, 10 offensive linemen. And so we shall see. Okay. I'm going to keep 5. Actually, I might be one ahead of you because I can't remember if I officially picked Josh Wiley or not. I don't know. I'm going to go with 4 tight ends and 5 linebackers, which means I'm 1 behind you. So,
okay.
All right. So you got 4. All right. Let's do corners then, because this is fascinating.
Yeah, this gets very interesting. Snead, Brownlee, McCreary, locks. Baker, I think, probably makes it because he did have so much experience last year and played pretty well for them in a pretty extended run. Coming in when they had all their injuries at corner. So I've got Darrell Baker as my fourth, and then the fifth to me is like wide open. I could see any one of probably 3 or 4 guys taking that spot. You've got Marcus Harris, the draft pick. You've got Gabe Judy Lally, who was around the team last year. You've got Amani Aruwarie, who they signed, who has some experience in the NFL. He's a little bit older. I think he's 29, 30, something like that, but he's played. And so if they're looking for some veteran experience, I think he brings that option. And then there's Jamari Harris from Iowa, the UDFA, that to me, that's the guy I've got as the fifth. Just from a talent level standpoint, I think he's a better corner than Marcus Harris, despite the draft investment. And ultimately, a 6th-round pick isn't that much different than a UDFA from a standpoint of team investment. These 6th-round picks get cut in camp all the time. So I'm not letting that hold me up from saying that I think Jamar Harris ends up making it over Marcus Harris because I just think he's a better player.
So I have Snead, Brownlee, McCreary. Jamari Harris was playing ahead of Marcus Harris during all the OTA stuff. Now, is that just an opportunity for reps and the young players maybe not ready? I don't know. They are invested in Marcus Harris, so I feel like cutting a draft pick is not a good look for anybody. So I have a tough time thinking they're going to cut him. I have a really tough time. So I think they are very torn on Baker.
Yeah.
I think they think he did well in a difficult situation.
Yeah.
I don't think they think that he is an option long term.
I agree. I don't think
Even
there's a lot
backup,
more there than what we saw last year. But I think what you got last year was pretty good.
So the question, Snead, Brownlee, McCreary, Harris for me. Mm-hmm. The question is Gabe Judy Lally have more upside, give you more than maybe what you already know about Baker? Odds would tell you Baker is the more likely pick.
Yeah.
I'm going to go Gabe Judy Lally.
Interesting. So you're going 6 here, and you're going Harris, and Judy Lally behind.
I might have to go back and cut Curtis Jacobs, actually.
All right.
I might be one. I might have 54. So
get out of here, Curtis. Yeah. No, I think it's a very interesting group. I think the bottom of this group's very interesting. Bottom of
if you are
line is very interesting.
If you are reading into and this is dangerous. This is like WebMDing like a spot on your skin. Like you're just gonna go down a rabbit hole. But basing your opinions on how the Titans feel about their depth chart on what we saw all summer, it is very risky. It's just just don't know. If that is the case, Lorenzo Carter is a lock for the team.
Yeah,
I'll say that. If that is the case, Jamari Harris and Gabe Judy Lally are placed fairly highly in the minds of Denard Wilson and the staff.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. That's
all. That's all.
I do think that is typically. I mean, it's not 100%. Things change a lot during the course of a training camp. Even guys that'll be working with the ones the first week, end up being cut, by the end of camp. But
and Burnley too. He's another one that would get reps early.
Interesting
in rotation. I think Orgy did as well. So
it's definitely something to keep in mind as these things progress.
So you have Snead, Brownlee, McCreary, Baker, Jamari Harris.
Yeah.
And just the 5.
Yeah, and no Marcus Harris cut.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to cut a linebacker. I can't carry 5.
There's not 5 worth keeping.
No, there's probably not. There's not. There might not be more than 2 or 1.
It might not be more than 1 worth keeping.
Worth keeping. All right, let's do safety. Amani Hooker, Xavier Woods, Kevin Winston, and Mike Brown. That's it. I think this is like the easiest. I think this is the easiest roster position to analyze.
See, I had an extra there. I had Julius Wood on the back of the roster. I don't feel great about it. I'd probably rather have another corner now that I think about it a little bit more, but I did have Wood down. So I don't know that they need 5 safeties though. They're pretty set there.
Well, it depends. If they want Winston and Hooker to play more nickel, play more slot, roll up and play linebacker because their
for sure.
linebackers are terrible. Maybe
Terrible.
they want to put Julius Wood back there or Xavier Wood back there and then put Winston in as your instead, in in a dime package, maybe you're dropping a safety down into the box instead of putting an extra corner on the field. I don't know.
True.
I think they do have some flexibility here because I do think they have 4 solid options at safety. Once Winston is healthy, I think he deserves to be in the lineup, which means you could, like, we've seen Hooker do everything on this defense. It doesn't matter the coordinator; he's available to do kind of whatever you need him to do. So, and I think Xavier Woods is just kind of back there at the back. I think he's in a good shape as sort of your back end high point safety. And you can move Hooker around, you can move Winston around. They've got some options back there, but I think those 4 are pretty clear. So that's I think you're at 53. Have you counted? Have you double checked?
I have. Excel double checked for me.
Excel double checked for you.
Yeah, and it hasn't been wrong yet.
Well, here's my fancy scientific sheet right there. Once I cut Kurt, I think I was over by 1. So basically, it comes down to here's our differences. You have Brandon Allen. I have 2 quarterbacks.
Yeah.
We both have Restrepo as the 7th receiver. You have DMR, David Martin Robinson, as the 3rd tight end. I have Wiley and Odekoyo as 4 tight end package. You have Duncan as a 9th or 10th offensive lineman. I have Ojukwu. You have Lynch as a defensive lineman. I have Watkins. We have the same edge rushers, basically the same safeties, except for you added an extra safety. I added Gabe Judy Lally as an extra corner. You have Baker. I do not. You have Benda at linebacker. I have Orji. So plenty of differences.
Yeah.
And 1 at each position is about right when it comes to receiver, offensive line, linebacker, corner. Those are the deepest positions. So I do think the roster is better. I think it's in a better place than it was last year. And we'll see how right we were at the end of training camp.
That's right. Grades will come in.
That's exactly right. Well, fill in host grades for Mike Herndon.
the way I'm going to be rooting for David Benda at the end of these preseason games.
Well, I guess if that's the case and you're going to be a total homer, then I suppose I have to root for Gabe Judy Lally to make the team.
my David Benda Titans jersey coming in the mail.
Where's they have who's the running back they have from Tennessee? Jabari Small? Who's the running back they have?
He's gone, isn't he?
No. Who's Small? I guess he's gone.
Yeah, he was here last year.
Gabe Judy Lally is the one I can think of that will that I can root for. That's a Tennessee alumni. So there we go.
Is that the only Vol on the roster right now?
In the fighting for the spot, yeah.
Man, just spitting in the faces of
Calvin Ridley. You got so here's the problem with all the receivers is there's just a bunch of like anti-Vols. You got a Bama receiver in Ridley. You got two Florida receivers in Jefferson and DK. Kansas State for Lockett, Stanford for IU Manor. I don't know where Bryce Oliver went to school. That's offensive. But I don't know that. I don't know that.
It's like Western Carolina or something like that.
Restrepo went to Miami. Yeah, Kentucky backup quarterback. Like here's a lot of Alabama left tackle. Like this is an offensive group of.
It is.
How dare the Tennessee Titans spit in the face of the Big Orange Nation? How dare they?
Oh no. Bryce Oliver. I can't believe you didn't know this. Youngstown State.
I should have known that.
Wasn't that like the birthplace of coaching for a while? Maybe like
the cradle of coaches.
Yeah, I think that wasn't that Youngstown State.
I think it was Youngstown State, and then like a couple of MAC schools, like Miami of Ohio, and it basically is that area of the country because Kent State is Nick Saban. Saban went to Kent State. I think the Stoops family, Bob, Mark, and his father, I think, came through Youngstown State as well. And then you got all the Miami of Ohio and Athens, Ohio, like all those. That's the cradle of coaches, supposedly.
Yeah, they all those Ohio guys.
Yeah. Mike, thank you so much, man. Hope the 4th of July holiday was great. I hope you're ready for training camp. I know it's opening up this week. We do appreciate all you guys for hanging out with us and spending time with us. Even though I'm trouncing through the mountains right now, hopefully enjoying myself and some fresh air and recentering and focusing before I get to come back and argue about Xavier Restrepo's thickness of his thighs.
That's right. Stay away from the Bears.
Yeah, there we go. That's right. Hey, my 7-year-old loves telling people what to do when you see a bear. She loves it. She'll just be like, "Hey, Grandma, if you see a bear," she's like, "Hey, bear." I'm like, "That's right. That's the right thing to do. Get real big and real loud and yell at it, and it'll walk away." So
well trained. Yeah.
Easier said than done.
100%.
Standing there facing a bear.
Yeah.
All right, Mike, great to see you, dude. Always a pleasure. Sinkers Beverages, Shotgun Boys Barbecue. Go support good local businesses. Come out to the 40th birthday party. It's gonna be a lot of fun. And tickets are only $10. All the money goes to charity. Lots of cool free stuff, music, food, booze, giveaways. It's going to be a lot of fun. basementeast.com, so go check it out. Otherwise, thanks for listening. Nick and I will be back on Friday, different time slot this week. We'll be back on Friday to kind of preview what's been going on at Titans camp as it gets started this week. Always a pleasure, my guy. Thanks for hanging out.
Absolutely. Thanks, Braden.
There you go. Thanks for listening. Rate, review, subscribe, all that great stuff. We'll talk to you next time. Peace and love.